Ohio State and Indiana dominated their games on Saturday. And not only are they the best two teams in the Big Ten, they are clearly the best two teams in the country. We'll have a complete recap of the entire Big Ten football weekend right here. Locked On Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Schreeman, 40 years as a sports talk show host and play-by-play announcer. I want to thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Hey, hit that free subscribe button down below. That way you'll never miss a single episode. We're here every day talking Big Ten. Plus, if you share, like, and follow, that helps us out too. And you can hype YouTube videos as well. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKDOWNCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Hoosiers, Buckeyes, looks like a collision course for the Big Ten championship game. We'll talk about every team, every game. Bad news for the Huskers. And basketball season starts tonight. We got a lot to do, plus our top 10 Big Ten observations over the weekend. But let's start it off with Penn State at number 1, Ohio State. Look, we've talked about this throughout the week last week. This is one of those games we had circled. We thought this was going to be a big deal. We didn't know that Penn State was going to completely self-employed. Now they're under implode. Now they're under interim head coach Terry Smith. The Buckeyes win this game 38-14. Yeah, it was close at the half. I kind of expected it to be, well, I did expect it to be close to the half. I mentioned it on the Pigskin Picks. I'm not going to be modest. Yeah, this is how I said this thing was going to roll. I said, look, at one point, everybody thought that Penn State was the number 2 ranked team in the country, right? There's a reason for that. And even though it was a preseason poll, they have a lot of talent. And they don't have much else to get up for here this season. I thought they would get up for this game and then slowly be beaten down into submission. That's exactly what happened. It was 17-14 at the half. So when Ohio State came out a 38-14 winner, the Buckeyes now 8-0, Penn State 3-5 and 0-2 under interim head coach Terry Smith. So the Buckeyes did throw, that defense did throw a second half shutout. Julian Sayin on the day threw for 316 yards, 4 more touchdown passes, only 3 incompletions, more touchdown passes than incompletions. This guy is very much in the Heisman mix. He's probably your clubhouse leader right now. It seems like every day he goes out there and throws for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. He's completed like 80% of his passes. It's just ridiculous. Had 2 touchdown catches by Jeremiah Smith. One of them, a highlight reel that was certainly worthy of a mention in our top 10 Big Ten observation. I'm going to tell you that's one of them right now. It was a deflection, and because he caught it with one hand after the deflection in the end zone. It was incredible. He had 6 catches for 123 yards. Carnell Tate, 5 catches, 124 yards and a touchdown. Had that big 57-yard catch to get things rolling in the second half. Sayin joins Geno Smith as the only FBS quarterback since 1985 to have 3 games in one season with at least 300 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and a completion rate of 85%. Phenomenal. Meanwhile, Penn State, they've dropped 5 straight. They become the first team ever, this is a dubious stat, to be ranked preseason number 2 and lose 5 in a row in the season. Unreal. Penn State hosts number 2 Indiana next. Ohio State, by the way, at Purdue, which gave Michigan a tough time. We'll talk about that in a few moments. That raised some eyebrows. Meanwhile, speaking of the Indiana Hoosiers, they got off to a really slow start at Maryland, but they win this game 55-20, another huge margin of victory. The Hoosiers are now 9-0. Meanwhile, Maryland, who started out 4-0, is now 4-4. I mentioned the slow start by the Hoosiers. Fernando Mendoza actually was picked off on the opening drive, and the IU defense held Maryland to just 3 points on that drive. The Terps, that was their 15th interception of the season. That's what they do. They lead the country in turnover ratio. And the defense stopped Indiana in the next drive. They had a punt from their own end zone. Finally, Mendoza settled down, capped off a nice 13-play, 93-yard drive. He ran it in for a touchdown. He passed for another touchdown on the day. His top weapon, this is of concern for the Hoosiers, Elijah Sarratt, left the game early with a hamstring. and his nationally leading a streak of 46 consecutive games with a catch ended because he did not return to the game. They're going to need him against Penn State next week. So if the passing game is hurting, pound the ground game. Kalon Black and Roman Hemby combined for 198 yards and 2 touchdowns. Hemby, the former Maryland Terp, was there for 4 years, transferred to Indiana this year. IU outrushed Maryland 367 yards to 37. And since the Hoosiers' impressive win at Oregon a few weeks ago, they have a winning margin of a combined 120 points, plus 120 in their wins over Michigan State, UCLA, and now Maryland. IU's defense also came up with 5 turnovers in this game. We told you how Maryland leads the country in turnover margin. Well, the Hoosiers came up with 5 of them in this game. And Maryland freshman quarterback Malik Washington, who we're very fond of on this podcast, we talk about, I think he's going to get the Big Ten Freshman of the Year. He did not have a good game. He was responsible for 3 of those 5 turnovers. And again, as I mentioned, the Terps now sitting at 4-4 after a 4-0 start. Meanwhile, there's another quarterback that had a huge day in the Big Ten, and that was Luke Altmyer. Illinois with a 35-13 win over Rutgers. Illinois improves to 6-3. Rutgers falls to 4-5. Now, Illinois has now snapped a 2-game losing streak, and they're also bowl eligible back-to-back years for the first time since 2010, 2011. So Brett Bielema doing a great job over there. As for Luke Altmyer that we mentioned, he threw for 4 touchdowns. He ran for another. So 5 total touchdowns for Altmyer in this game. Threw for 235 yards, 88 yards on the ground. By the way, their first touchdown drive of the game, 12 plays, 99 yards. Took 6 minutes. It was a thing of beauty. On the other side, Rutgers, which looked like they were going to have a promising year. They looked like they had a pretty powerful offense. And offense really hasn't been their problem. It's been defense. They have now lost 5 of their last 6. Ethan Kaliak-Manis, though, 253 yards through the air and a touchdown. KJ Duff coming off that 241-yard performance against Purdue. 9 catches, 93 yards, and a touchdown. Ian Strong, 6 catches, 85 yards for Rutgers. Meanwhile, back to Illinois for a moment. They gave up a whopping 76 points to Ohio State and Washington combined in their previous 2 games. They held Rutgers to 59 yards rushing and a 2.2 yard per carry average in this game. Also, the fans are loving this football team. It's a fun football team to watch. They have had 4 straight sellouts now at home at Illinois. They have not done that since 2008. So Rutgers, both of these teams, by the way, play Maryland next. Well, how's that happen? Well, there's a bye involved. So Rutgers, they host Maryland this weekend, and Illinois now has a bye week, and then they'll host Maryland on November 15th. It's hard to believe we're talking mid-November already. So those are just a few of the games on Saturday. We're going to come back, and we got to talk about all of them. We had a crazy finish in the Michigan State-Minnesota game. I still want to discuss. I'm still not sure they got the right call at the end. I'll explain that. Bad news for Dylan Raiola and Nebraska, in addition to losing to the Trojans. And Michigan needed everything but the kitchen sink in order to beat Purdue this weekend. I know Michigan's banged up, but something's wrong here. Be sure to hit that free subscribe button down below. That way you'll never miss a single episode. And if you could share, follow, and like Locked On Big Ten, that would help us out. Don't forget, we have a website, talkbig10.com, the number 10, where we put all of our podcasts. You go back and see what we did yesterday. You can go back and check our live post-game one on Saturday. And they're always there. Plus, there are links for you to buy your favorite Big Ten merchandise if you want it. Get your school logo on a shirt, a jacket, a hoodie, pennants, hats in time for the holidays. So you can check that out. It's all there with our podcast at Talk Big Ten. We'll talk about some of these other crazy games that took place over the weekend. Plus, we'll have our top 10 Big Ten observations from the weekend. That's all coming up in a minute right here on Locked On Big Ten. So college football back in the mix. I mean, we're down into the back 9 of this season, right? We're trying to figure it out. We're very excited about it. And we always talk about these games. And maybe you and your friends go, you know what? I'd like to go to one of these games someday. And your opportunity, you can do that with Game Time. If you need a ticket to anything, sporting event, concert, comedy show, Game Time is the app you absolutely need. But if you want to feel the excitement and the fun of tailgates and rivalries and the energy of being there in person, there's nothing like it. So, and sometimes getting tickets can be tricky, but not with Game Time. Game Time makes it very easy. No long lines, no hidden fees, all that stuff right there. What you see is what you get on the prices. That's why you use Game Time, use the Game Time app, and it gives the advantage back to you in doing this. So you pull up Game Time, a couple of taps, you see the amazing deals, boom, you pick your ticket. A couple of things. You can see a view, a panoramic view from the seat of the ticket you're about to buy. Plus, did you know you can get into a college football game for as little as $25? Take the guesswork out of buying football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Thanks for checking us out here on Locked On Big Ten, especially you everydayers out there. Thank you for making this thing go. Spread the word. You're already a Big Ten fan. I know that since you're checking us out. Tell your other Big Ten friends that we're here each and every day. We always appreciate that. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet. Join the club. That way you never miss a single episode. It's free. And if you could share a little share arrow, tell your friends about it. Just share this little podcast with them and follow and like Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. And don't forget our website at talkbig10.com. So crazy game, Michigan State, Minnesota. We'll get to the Dylan Raiola situation in a moment. But this game at Minnesota was Minnesota 10-0 at the half. It was 17-17 after regulation. Minnesota gets the win with the late touchdown, 23-20 in overtime to improve to 6-3. Meanwhile, Michigan State, 3-6. They're still 0 for the Big Ten. More problems for Jonathan Smith. But the winning touchdown, Drake Lindsey ran for a 3-yard touchdown in the overtime for the Gophers win. He also scored the tying touchdown with 29 seconds left of regulation. Now, I mentioned this game was 10-0 at the half. Minnesota with the 10-0 lead at the half. First half had combined 6 punts. Each team missed a field goal. Just kind of just an ugly, grinded first half. And in fact, Jonathan Smith, under a lot of job pressure, benched Aiden Childs, who transferred over with him from Oregon State when he took this job last year. Alesso Milovojevic came in as the starting quarterback. So Childs' streak of 20 straight starts for Michigan State ended. They did throw for 305 yards and a touchdown in this game. In fact, again, keep in mind, Michigan State was shut out in the first half. They had a season high 467 yards of offense despite the shutout in the first half. Unbelievable. The Gophers, they bounced back from that 41-3 loss at Iowa. Fami Ichiboy had 17 carries for 108 yards and a touchdown in this one. The Gophers defense, which had a school record 9 sacks versus Nebraska 2 weeks ago, had 7 sacks in this game, 6 in the first half, 12 tackles for loss for a negative 72 yards. Absolutely incredible. Minnesota is at Oregon in 2 weeks after a bye. Michigan State hosts Penn State. That's going to be a pretty desperate game, Michigan State and Penn State, in a couple of weeks. So we had a couple of games under the lights. Let's start off with the Purdue game at the Big House against 25th ranked Michigan. Michigan won this game 21-16. It's a lot closer than they wanted it. Michigan, though, they're 7-2. 7-2. They were 7-5 last year. They've matched their regular season win total from last year. I mean, they take these baby steps of improvement. I thought there were some setbacks or steps backward in this game, but they found a way to win. I guess you always have one of those on your schedule. You just got to find a way to win when you're not at your best. 21-16, the final score. Meanwhile, Purdue falls to 2-7, 0-6 in the Big Ten. But you could sit here and say, well, part of the problem was, Justice Haynes, their starting star running back, was out with another injury. But Jordan Marshall stepped right in there with a career high 185 yards and a career high 3 touchdowns. So the running game didn't miss a beat. You can't say, well, they didn't play well because they didn't have Justice Haynes. because Jordan Marshall more than filled in and filled that gap. So you sit here and wonder where would they be without him. And by the way, he's pretty good anyway. He's rushed for at least 110 yards in the Wolverines' last 3 wins versus Washington, Michigan State, and Purdue. Bryce Underwood wasn't that great. He completed just 13 of his 22 passes for 145 yards, did not throw a touchdown pass, did throw an interception, fumbled the ball from the Purdue 4-yard line, and it rolled just on the other side of the pylon and then went out the side of the end zone. Had it rolled out at the 1, but no, it went past the pylon, out of bounds. So it was a touchback. Left points on the board. It was Purdue football. In fact, there were a couple times. Michigan also finished the game on the 10-yard line, running out the clock. They definitely, both sides, both left a lot of points on the field in this game. And, the Boilermakers actually held the time of possession advantage in this game by 5 minutes. That was surprising to me. So moving on forward, Purdue hosts number 1 Ohio State. They will go right from Michigan to Ohio State. Michigan will get a much-needed bye. They need to get healthy across the board. And then they play Northwestern at Wrigley Field on November 15th. That will be pretty cool. All right, here's the other night game, Saturday night, NBC, national TV. So Nebraska hosting number 23, USC. USC wins the game, 21-17 to improve to 6-2. Nebraska, which became bowl eligible with their last win, they fall to 6-3. Crazy week in Lincoln, right? Matt Rule gets a 2-year extension to keep him from taking the Penn State job. There was the crazy atmosphere of the blackout on Saturday night on national TV. Another all too familiar 1-score loss for the Huskers. Another all too familiar loss to a ranked team. Do you know that Nebraska has now lost 29 straight games to a ranked opponent? That's unreal. That's unreal. I know Husker fans know that. I'm telling everybody else. But the worst of it is they lost their starting quarterback, Dylan Raiola, who we're big fans of. Would love talking about him on this podcast. And he's out for the rest of the year. Broken fibula. He got folded up all awkward. And TJ Lateef came in for him. The freshman completed 5 of 7 passes for just 7 yards. Thankfully for the Huskers, they had running back Emmett Johnson. He's been playing lights out all year, ran 29 times for 165 yards and a touchdown, but they did not get the win. Now, I want to take a moment and talk about something here for a moment. Because at the time, they weren't sure that Raiola had cracked a bone in his ankle or his lower leg, his fibula. So, he was standing on the sideline. You could tell it was ginger. You could tell he kind of wanted to come back in and give it a go. But Matt Rule didn't put him back in. And I thought there was somewhat of an accusatory tone from the media. Hey, Matt Rule, why didn't you put him back in there if he could stand on his 2 legs? Well, Matt Rule gave the proper answer. He says, look, here's what the trainers told us. He said, they're not going to say he can't go in, but they did say he shouldn't go in. Because they didn't know he had anything was broken at that point, right? Nothing was displaced. He could stand on it. He was in a heck of a lot of pain, and he couldn't run. He can move, but he couldn't defend himself. As Matt Rule says, look, if he got in trouble, he couldn't defend himself and run away from trouble. He says, I love the kid too much. I'm not going to put him out there. That was the right decision. All right, despite the tone of the question. We then found out later after the game with x-rays and whatnot, yeah, he broke the fibula. Done for the year. That would have been bad to put him back out there. So Matt Rule did the right thing, and it's disappointing that he will not be able to play for the rest of the season. So it looks like TJ Lateef is going to get some snaps and going to grow up in a hurry. And also, they'll need to use Emmett Johnson even more if that's possible. Meanwhile, for USC, King Miller, we know his story since the Michigan game several weeks ago. Walk-on freshman, 4th string running back. All the injuries in front of him on the depth chart. He ran for 129 yards and the go-ahead touchdown in the 4th quarter. Continues to be amazing. So, and it was not the best passing day for the Trojans. Jade Maeva, probably his worst day. 9 completions, 9 of 23 for 135, no touchdowns and an interception. So that wasn't great. They relied on the running game. They were able to outlast Nebraska. They get a nice road win. So USC hosts Northwestern on a short week Friday. So they played Saturday night. Now they play Friday night. hosting Northwestern, I should say, and then Nebraska visits UCLA on Saturday. So Washington, Oregon, UCLA, Iowa, Wisconsin, Northwestern, all coming off a bye week. Don't forget the college football playoff poll, the first one of this season that determines the college football playoffs, comes out tomorrow. We'll see how many Big Ten teams are in the mix. I've been saying all along, I thought maybe Indiana would flip over Ohio State. I'm not so sure anymore. There's no reason to penalize Ohio State. So I think Ohio State will be 1, Indiana will be 2. We'll see where Oregon is. We'll see how many Big Ten. Is there a 4th Big Ten team that can rise a little bit here and get into the playoff chatter? Right now, it's looking like 3 Big Ten teams in the playoffs, not 4. So that will come out tomorrow. In addition to all of that, today's the start of basketball season. Yeah, you like the Big Ten hoops? We got IU Indianapolis at Ohio State. Jack Diebler, of course, earned the job as an interim last year. Coppin State is at Maryland. And this is the Hall of Fame series. Buzz Williams taking over for Kevin Williard there. Colgate is at number 22, Michigan State. Tom Izzo, age 70. Been there since 1995, another season. By the way, Tom Izzo, Michigan State, they're taking on Coach Calipari and Arizona on Saturday on a nationally televised game later on this week. Fairfield is at Penn State. Campbell at number 24, Wisconsin. Wisconsin's coach, basketball season finally. Gardner Webb is at Minnesota. Brand new head coach there in Nico Medved. West Georgia is at Nebraska. Mercy Hurst is at Northwestern. Chris Collins, I think, is a good coach. I always wonder how long he's going to stay there. Maybe he's just going to be there forever at Northwestern. Number 7, Michigan, and Dusty May hosting Oakland. That's Oakland, Michigan, not California. Jackson State is at 17th ranked Illinois, and Cal Poly is at USC. Eastern Washington at number 12, UCLA, with Mick Cronin, and he likes to play that defense. Always take the under. And Arkansas Pine Bluff is at Washington. Everybody else will get started later on in the week as well. So just throw a little basketball to wet the whistle there as we're ready to go. All right, I have my top 10 Big Ten observations from the weekend on the football field. That's coming up in 1 minute right here. We'll see if your favorite team or player made the list here on Locked On Big Ten. Watching games is exciting, but it's always more exciting if you got a little something on it. FanDuel is at your disposal. The NBA season is back. There's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of a game and you got a hot hand or a hunch, you want to jump in live during live bets during the game, you can do that. You can even parlay a live bet in game with a game you already had before the game and even win more money if you got that hunch. Keeps every game very exciting when your team's making a late push. That's how you can jump in. But right now, this is exciting. FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com and sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. That's at FanDuel.com. Thanks for checking us out here on Locked On Big Ten. We always appreciate having you here. All right, let's do our Monday feature. Every Monday, we come swinging out of the weekend with my top 10 Big Ten observations for the weekend. By the way, tomorrow, Tuesday tweets, hit us up on X right now, and I'll put it on the program. Also, Wednesdays, we power rank the standings as we see them. Thursdays, we do Big Ten classics and live action, looking ahead to the Big Ten Network's schedule over the weekend. And Fridays, we go on the record and we make our pigskin picks. All right, so let's do this. Take a look at our top 10 Big Ten observations. We'll feather these in on screen. If you're audio only on Spotify or Apple or wherever you get your podcast, that's no problem there. We'll put this on screen. We'll start at number 10. I want to start off with Minnesota quarterback Drake Lindsey. That game-winning touchdown versus Michigan State in overtime. And again, the tying one late in the fourth quarter. By the way, I didn't mention this earlier when I was talking about the game. I should have. I'm not so sure he got it. He rolled out to the left side, 3-yard touchdown, and got there at the pylon. Now, his foot did step out of bounds inside the one. I'm still not sure we had a good angle as to whether that ball was across the goal line for the game-ending, game-winning touchdown, but nevertheless, it's good, and we'll give him a shout-out for that. A very big-time play, both in the fourth quarter and in overtime for Minnesota over Michigan State. Luke Altmyer. Want to mention him from Illinois, 5 total touchdowns, 4 through the air, 1 through the ground versus Rutgers. At number 8, I thought the Nebraska blackout was cool. Black uniforms, the black logos, black end zones. Looked like 100% participation in the crowd. It looked good. The only problem I had, and Huskers fans, let's hear from you. I didn't like the white helmets. I know traditionally, Nebraska, the white helmet and the red and colors and all that. They went white with the black. I would have gone with an all black helmet, maybe a white logo. What do you think? Am I off? I don't know. If you're a Huskers fan, I'm sure you have an opinion on it. Let me know. But anyway, the whole thing was cool. I don't want to knock it. It's number 8 on our list. Speaking of Nebraska, Emmett Johnson with the great day, 29 carries, 165 yards, and a touchdown. He's probably still a little sore from that effort. Speaking of running backs with the effort, King Miller, the walk-on for USC, he's got to get a scholarship. Have they given him a scholarship yet? They should. He's been their go-to guy for about 3 or 4 games now. So King Miller, 129 yards and that go-ahead touchdown at Nebraska in front of a hostile crowd. And also, speaking of running backs, at number 5, Michigan running back Jordan Marshall, again with Justice Haynes out, been on fire lately, and career best, 185 yards and 3 touchdowns versus Purdue, and they needed it. His 3 touchdowns, that's all they got. 21-16 was the final score of that game. We also have Kalon Black and Roman Hemby, the Indiana running backs. They combined for 198 yards and a touchdown. Of course, Hemby, a former Terp, played 4 years at Maryland before transferring to Indiana, and they beat Maryland here this weekend, and he was very instrumental in that game for the Hoosiers. Speaking of the Hoosiers, I want to give a shout-out to their defense. I told you how Maryland led the country in turnover ratio, and yet Indiana went there and got 5 turnovers, a couple of picks, 3 fumbles, including a strip fumble that was returned for a touchdown. Pretty good by the Indiana defense. And Indiana was missing people on both sides of the ball, too. They got to get healthy. Jeremiah Smith making number 2 on our list, the Ohio State wide receiver. Again, the deflected pass that he caught with one hand in the end zone of the 4th quarter versus Penn State. Highlight on draft night, when he eventually gets drafted high into the first round of the NFL draft in the 2027 NFL draft. They'll show that highlight. They'll show that the quickness and the ability to adjust and just doing it with one hand. And of course, his quarterback, his teammate, Julian Sayin, I think is ahead of Fernando Mendoza in the Heisman race, if you ask me. Ohio State, their quarterback, 4 more touchdown passes, another 300-yard game, doing that against Penn State, doing it against former Penn State defensive coordinator, Jim Knowles, who couldn't stop anything. I don't know if you saw, they were showing on the Jumbotron video of Jim Knowles in the booth. He got booed, and then they would cut away to Matt Patricia on the sideline, their new defensive coordinator, and they would cheer, and they would go back and forth. It's kind of funny, actually. Nevertheless, those are our top 10 Big Ten observations from the weekend. Let me know if you think that I left anything out. That was a good action-packed weekend. We're here every day with the latest news, analysis of that news, and opinion of that news. And if you're checking us out, I know you're already a Big Ten fan, but I know you know other Big Ten people. Word of mouth, or hit that little share arrow. Send this podcast to your friends who you know like Big Ten, and let them know we're out here working hard every single day. And then we go live on Saturdays. That's cool as well. If you are new, hit that subscribe button down below. That way you'll never miss a single episode. Begin our Big Ten club together, if you will. And if you can share, follow, and like as well, that's always great. Also, Locked On and Fire TV present the college football kickoff here, Ultimate College Football Weekly Preview. Drake Toll from Locked On Big 12 hosts it. Conversation along with 2-time AP coach of the year Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and then our Locked On hosts come together and give you everything you need to know every weekend for the upcoming games. The college football preview only that Locked On can do. So catch the college football kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. We'll have the latest news and information tomorrow. I want to dive into Michigan, where we really are. That was a squeaker against Purdue. I would be a little bit concerned about that. Plus, we'll have our Tuesday tweets, all that coming up in our next episode. In the meantime, Thanks for joining us here today, and I can't wait till we talk again tomorrow. For Locked On Big Ten, I'm Craig Sheeman. We'll see you next time.